Project exam flashcards for the PMP and CAPM exam. Whether you're brushing up or just getting started, these cards are designed to boost your confidence and sharpen your recall. Acceptance criteria. Conditions required for deliverables to be accepted. Accepted deliverables. Products results validated by project customer sponsors. Accuracy. Assessment correctness within quality management system. Acquire resources. Obtaining necessary resources to complete project work. Activity. Scheduled portion of work during a project. Activity. Duration. Time between start and finish of a scheduled activity. Activity list. Documented tabulation of schedule activities. Adaptive life cycle. Iterative or incremental project life cycle. Agreements. Documents or communication defining project intentions. Alternative analysis. Technique to evaluate options for project execution. Analogous estimating. Estimating using historical data from similar activities projects. Analytical techniques. Techniques to evaluate, analyze, or forecast outcomes. Assumption. Factor considered true without proof in planning process. Attribute sampling. Measuring quality by noting presence, absence of characteristics. Authority. Right to apply project resources, make decisions or approvals. Backward pass. Technique to calculate late start and finish dates. Bar chart. Graphic display of schedule-related information. Baseline. Approved version of work product used as basis for comparison. Basis of estimates. Supporting documentation outlining project estimates. Benchmarking. Comparison of products. Processes, practices to identify best practices. Benefits management plan. Documented explanation of creating, maximizing, and sustaining benefits. Bid documents. Documents to solicit information proposals from prospective sellers. Bidder conference. Meetings with prospective sellers prior to bid preparation. Bottom-up estimating. Estimating by aggregating lower-level WBS components. Budget. Approved estimate for project WBS component schedule activity. Budget at completion, BAC. Sum of all budgets established for work to be performed. Business case. Economic feasibility study to establish validity of benefits. Business value. Quantifiable or intangible benefits delivered project or program stakeholders. Cause and effect diagram. Decomposition technique for root cause analysis. Change. Modification to project plan, deliverable or document. Change control. Process to identify, document, and approve project modifications. Change Control Board, CCB. Group responsible for approving project changes. Change Control System. Procedures for managing project modifications and documentation. Change Control Tools. Manual or automated tools for change management. Change Log. List of project changes and their status. Change Management Plan. Component of project plan for change control. Change Request. Formal proposal to modify project element. Charter. See project charter. Checklist analysis. Systematic review using a checklist. Check sheets. Tally sheet used for data gathering. Claim. Request for consideration or compensation under contract terms. Claims administration. Processing and communication of contract claims. Close project or phase. Finalizing activities for project phase or contract. Closing process group. Processes to formally close a project or phase. Code of accounts. Numbering system for work breakdown structure components. Collect requirements. Determine and document stakeholder needs. Co-location. Project team physically located near each other. Communication methods. Procedure to transfer information among stakeholders. Communication models. Representation of communication process. Communication requirements analysis. Technique to determine stakeholder information needs. Communications management plan. Plan for administering and disseminating project information. Communication styles. Assessment, identifying preferred communication method and content. Communication technology, tools for transferring information among stakeholders. Conduct procurements, obtain seller responses and award contracts. Configuration management plan, plan for managing and accounting for project artifacts. Configuration management system, procedures for tracking project artifacts and changes. Conformance, meeting acceptable variation for quality requirement. Constraint, limiting factor affecting project execution. Context diagrams, visual depiction of product scope and business system. Contingency, event or occurrence that may affect project execution. Contingency reserve, time or money allocated for known risks. Contingent response strategies, responses to specific triggers. Contract, mutually binding agreement between seller and buyer. Contract change control system, system for collecting, tracking, and communicating contract changes. Control, comparing actual with planned performance and recommending corrective action. Control account, management control point for scope, budget, cost, and schedule. Control chart, graphic display of process data against control limits. Control costs, monitoring project status and managing cost changes. Control limits, area composed of 3 standard deviations on either side of the center of data distribution. Control procurements, managing procurement relationships and contract performance. Control quality, monitoring and recording quality management results. Control resources, ensuring physical resources are available and monitoring utilization. Control schedule, monitoring project status and managing schedule changes. Control scope, monitoring project and product scope and managing changes. Corrective action, intentional activity, realigning project work with plan. Cost aggregation, summing cost estimates for work packages or cost control account. Cost baseline, approved time-phased project budget for comparison to actual results. Cost-benefit analysis, financial tool to compare project benefits with costs. Cost management plan, component of project plan for managing costs. Cost of quality, COQ, costs for preventing, appraising, and failing to meet quality requirements. Cost performance index, CPI, measure of cost efficiency of budgeted resources. Cost plus award, fee contract, CPAF, payments for completed work and seller profit. Cost plus fixed fee contract, CPFF, reimbursement for allowable costs and fixed profit. Cost plus incentive fee contract, CPIF, reimbursement for costs based on performance criteria. Cost reimbursable contract, payment to seller for actual costs and fee. Cost variance, CV, budget deficit or surplus at given point in time. Crashing, a technique used to shorten the schedule duration for the least cost by adding resources. Critical chain method, CCM, a technique that modifies the schedule to account for limited resources. Critical path, the sequence of the longest path which determines the shortest possible duration. Critical path activity, any activity on the critical path in a project schedule. Critical path method, CPM, used to estimate the minimum project duration and schedule flexibility. Cumulative cost curve, a graph of cumulative costs plotted against time. Customer, the person or organization that will use project's product or service. Customer acceptance, formal notification that a deliverable is accepted by the customer. Customer satisfaction, used to describe how well a project's product met the customer's expectations. Data analysis, a technique used to systematically examine data using analytical and logical reasoning. Data gathering techniques, used to generate ideas or explore possibilities or increase understanding. Data representation, a technique used to depict data visually or graphically. Data validation, ensuring data is complete and complies with requirements. Decision, a choice made from available alternatives using a defined process. Decision tree analysis, a visual technique used to evaluate multiple options. Delegation, assigning responsibility to another while retaining accountability for the results. Deliverable, product, service, or result produced as a result of completing a project or phase. Dependency, a logical relationship between two activities or a milestone. Design of experiments, a method to identify which variables may affect a deliverable. Develop project charter, developing a document that formally authorizes a project phase. Develop project management plan, consolidating an integrated project management plan. Develop schedule, analyzing and consolidating all inputs to create the project schedule. Development approach, a planned, systematic, and repeatable process to create a deliverable. Direct and manage project work, leading and performing work to achieve project objectives. Direct costs, costs that can be specifically identified with a particular project or endeavor. Discrete effort, an activity that can be planned and measured, whose duration can be estimated. Discretionary dependency, relationship based on best practices or desired sequence. Documentation reviews, gathering and reviewing information for accuracy and completeness. Duration, total work periods required for activity or component completion. Early finish date, EF, earliest possible completion based on schedule logic. Early start date, ES, earliest possible start based on schedule logic. Earned value, EV, work performed expressed in authorized budget. Earned value management, methodology combining scope, schedule, and cost measurements. Effort, labor units needed to complete activity or component. Emotional intelligence, ability to manage personal and group emotions. Enterprise environmental factors, external conditions that influence the project. Estimate, quantitative assessment of project variables. Estimate activity durations, estimating work periods needed for individual activities. Estimate activity resources, estimating team resources and necessary supplies. Estimate at completion, EAC, expected total cost for project completion. Estimate costs, approximating monetary resources needed for project work. Estimate to complete, ETC, expected cost for remaining project work. Execute, directing and performing project work, delivering results. Executing process group, processes to complete project work. Expert judgment, opinion based on specialized knowledge and experience. Explicit knowledge, codified knowledge using symbols like words and numbers. External dependency, relationship between project and non-project activities. Fallback plan, alternative set of actions in case of issues. Fast tracking, parallel performance of sequential activities. Fee, profit component of seller's compensation. Finish date, time of activity completion, actual or planned. Finish to finish, FF, successor cannot finish before predecessor. Finish to start, FS. Successor cannot start before predecessor. Firm fixed price contract, FFP. Set payment regardless of cost. Fishbone diagram, see cause and effect diagram. Fixed price contract, payment set regardless of cost. Fixed price incentive fee, contract, FPIF, bonus for meeting criteria. Fixed price with economic price adjustment, FPEPA. Conditional price adjustments allowed. Float, time activity can be delayed without successor impact. Flowchart, diagram of inputs, process actions, and outputs. Focus groups, technique to learn stakeholder expectations and attitudes. Forecast, prediction of project's future conditions and events. Forward pass, technique for early start and finish date calculation. Free float, delay time without successor impact or constraint violation. Functional organization. Staff grouped by specialization, limited PM authority. Funding limit reconciliation. Comparison of planned versus committed funds. Gantt chart. Bar chart with activities, dates, and durations. Grade. Rank for quality requirements of same functional items. Ground rules. Expectations for team behavior. Histogram. Bar chart of numerical data. Historical information. Documents and data of prior projects. Identify risks. Identification and documentation of risks. Identify stakeholders. Analysis and documentation of stakeholder information. Implement risk responses. Implementation of risk response plans. Imposed date. Fixed schedule activity or milestone date. Incentive fee. Financial incentives for seller performance. Incremental life cycle. Deliverable produced through iterative additions. Independent estimates. Third-party analysis of cost, schedule, or other items. Influence diagram. Graphical representation of causal influences and relationships. Information. Processed and structured data for specific contexts. Information management systems. Facilities for information distribution. Initiating process group. Processes for project or phase definition. Input. Required item for process, internal or external. Inspection. Examination of work product for conformity. Interpersonal and team skills. Skills for team interaction and leadership. Interpersonal skills. Skills for relationship building. Interviews. Formal or informal stakeholder. Information elicitation. Invitation for bid, IFB. Request for proposal in some areas. Issue. Condition impacting project objectives. Issue log. Document for issue recording and monitoring. Iterative life cycle. Scope determined early, time and cost estimates modified. Knowledge. Mixture of experience, values, beliefs, and intuition. Lag. Delay between predecessor and successor activity. Late finish date. LF. Latest possible finish date for activity. Late start date. LS. Latest possible start date for activity. Lead. Amount of time by which successor activity can be advanced. Lessons learned. Knowledge gained for improving future performance. Lessons learned register. Document recording knowledge gained during project. Lessons learned repository. Historical information on lessons learned. Level of effort, LOE. Activity measured by time, not end product. Life cycle. Stages of a project from start to finish. Log. Document used to record selected items in a process. Logical relationship. Dependency between two activities or milestone. Make or buy analysis. Evaluating options for product development. Make or buy decisions. Deciding whether to purchase or manufacture a product. Manage communications. Ensuring timely distribution of project information. Management reserve. Budget reserved for unforeseen work. Management skills. Abilities to plan, organize, direct, and control. Manage project knowledge. Using knowledge to achieve project objectives. Manage quality. Executing quality management plan. Manage stakeholder engagement. Working with stakeholders to meet needs. Manage team. Tracking team performance and optimizing project performance. Mandatory dependency. Contractually required or inherent relationship. Master schedule. Summary level project schedule. Matrix diagrams. Quality management tool for data analysis. Matrix organization. Project manager shares responsibility with functional managers. Methodology. System of practices and procedures used in a discipline. Milestone. Significant point or event in a project. Milestone schedule. Schedule with planned milestone dates. Mind mapping. Consolidating brainstormed ideas into a single map. Monitor. Collecting project performance data and producing measures. Monitor and control project work. Tracking, reviewing, and reporting project progress. Monitor communications. Ensuring information needs of project and stakeholders are met. Monitoring and controlling process group. Processes to track progress and initiate changes. Monitor risks. Monitoring risk response plans and identifying new risks. Monitor stakeholder engagement. Monitoring stakeholder relationships and engagement. Monte Carlo. Simulation. Computer model analysis for range of possible outcomes. Multi-criteria decision analysis. Analyzing and ranking many ideas using a decision matrix. Network. Schedule diagram of activity dependencies. Networking. Establishing connections. Network logic. Activity dependencies in a schedule diagram. Network path. Sequence of activities connected in a diagram. Node. A point where dependency lines connect in a diagram. Nominal group technique. Voting process to prioritize ideas. Objective, work direction, strategic position, purpose, result, product, or service. Opportunity, risk with a positive impact on one or more objectives. Organizational breakdown structure, OBS. Project organization hierarchical representation. Organizational learning, discipline for developing knowledge in individuals and organizations. Organizational process assets, policies, procedures, knowledge specific to the performing firm. Output, product, result, service generated by a process. Overall project risk, effective uncertainty on the project arising from all sources. Parametric estimating, algorithm-based cost duration estimation using historical data. Path convergence, a schedule activity with multiple predecessors. Path divergence, a schedule activity with multiple successors. Percent, complete work completed estimate expressed as a percentage. Performance measurement baseline, PMB, integrated scope, schedule, cost baselines. Performance reviews, technique to measure, compare, analyze actual performance. Perform integrated change control. Review, approve, manage change requests. Perform qualitative risk analysis. Prioritize project risks for analysis, job action. Perform quantitative risk analysis. Numerical analysis of project risks and uncertainty. Phase gate. Review at a phase end to continue, modify, end project. Plan communications management. Develop approach and plan for project communication. Plan cost management. Define project cost estimation. Budgeting, monitoring, control. Planned value, PV. Authorized budget for scheduled work. Planning package. WBS component below control account with known work content. Planning process group. Establish project scope. Refine objectives. Define course. Plan procurement management. Process for making decisions and approach for procurement. Plan quality management. Identify quality requirements standards for project deliverables. Plan resource management. Planning acquisition, management, and utilization of resources. Plan risk management. Define risk management activities for the project. Plan risk responses. Develop options, select strategies, agree on actions. Plan schedule management. Establish policies, procedures, documentation for the schedule. Plan scope management. Create scope management plan for project Shonard product. Plan stakeholder engagement. Develop approaches to involve project stakeholders. Plurality. Largest block makes decisions regardless of majority. Policy. Organizational actions based on principles to govern conduct. Portfolio. Group of projects, programs, operations to achieve strategic objectives. Portfolio management. Centralized management of one or more portfolios. Practice. Professional or management activity that contributes to processes. Precedence diagramming method, PDM. A schedule model technique. Precedence relationship. Logical dependency used in the PDM. Predecessor activity, activity before a dependent activity in a schedule. Predictive life cycle, project scope, time, and cost determined early. Preventive action, activity ensuring future performance is aligned with plan. Probability and impact matrix. Grid mapping risk probability and impact. Procedure established method of consistent performance or result. Process, systematic series of activities producing outputs. Procurement audits, review of contracts and contracting processes. Procurement documents, documents used in bid and proposal activities. Procurement documentation, documents used in signing agreements. Procurement management plan, plan for acquiring goods and services. Procurement, SOW, describes item for sellers to determine capability. Procurement strategy, approach to determine delivery method and agreements. Product, quantifiable artifact or component item, material or goods. Product analysis, tool for defining scope by asking questions. Product life cycle, phases representing evolution of a product. Product scope, features and functions of a product, service, result. Program, related projects, subsidiary programs, coordinated for benefits. Program management, application of knowledge, skills, principles to program. Progressive elaboration, iterative process of increasing plan detail. Project, temporary endeavor to create a unique product, service, result. Project calendar, identifies working days and shifts for activities. Project charter, formal authorization and resources for project activities. Project communications management, processes for timely communication. Project cost, management, planning, estimating, budgeting, controlling project costs. Project funding requirements, forecasted project costs to be paid. Project governance, framework, functions, and processes guiding project management. Project initiation, launching a process that can result in project authorization. Project integration management, identifying, defining, and coordinating project activities. Project lifecycle, series of phases from start to completion. Project management, applying knowledge, skills, tools to meet project requirements. Project management body of knowledge, knowledge within the profession. Project management information system, tools to gather and integrate project processes. Project management knowledge area, identified area defined by its knowledge requirements. Project management office, PMO, standardizes project-related governance and processes. Project management plan, document describing project execution, monitoring, and control. Project management process group, logical grouping of project inputs, tools, and techniques. Project management system, processes, tools, methodologies, resources to manage a project. Project management team, members directly involved in project management activities. Project manager, PM, leader of team responsible for achieving project objectives. Project organization chart, graphical depiction of team members and their interrelationships. Project phase, collection of logically related project activities. Project procurement management, processes to purchase or acquire products or services. Project quality management, processes for planning, managing, and controlling quality. Project resource management, processes to identify, acquire, and manage project resources. Project risk management, processes to manage risk on a project. Project schedule, output of a schedule model presenting linked activities. Project schedule management, processes required to manage project completion. Project schedule network diagram, graphical representation of logical activity relationships. Project scope, work performed to deliver a product, service, or result. Project scope management, processes to ensure project work is complete. Project scope statement, description of scope, deliverables, inclusions, and exclusions. Project Stakeholder Management, processes to identify, analyze, and engage stakeholders. Project Team Directory, list of project team members and communication information. Proposal evaluation techniques, reviewing proposals to support contract award decisions. Prototypes, working model of expected product for early feedback. Quality, degree to which inherent characteristics fulfill requirements. Quality audits, structured process to determine compliance with policies and procedures. Quality checklists, structured tool to verify required steps. Quality control measurements, documented results of quality control activities. Quality management plan, a plan used to achieve quality objectives. Quality management system, organizational framework for quality management. Quality metrics, description of a project or product attribute and how to measure it. Quality policy, policy for project quality management knowledge area. Quality report, document including quality issues, recommendations for corrective actions. Quality requirement, condition or capability used to assess conformance. Questionnaires, written sets of questions to accumulate information. RACI chart, responsibility assignment matrix to define stakeholder involvement. Regression analysis, analytical technique to develop a statistical relationship. Regulations, requirements imposed by a governmental body. Request for information, RFI. Procurement document for seller information. Request for proposal, RFP. Procurement document to request proposals. Request for quotation, RFQ. Document for price quotes from sellers of products such as services. Requirement, necessary condition or capability for satisfying business needs. Requirements. Documentation, description of how requirements meet business needs. Requirement management plan, describes how requirements are managed. Requirements traceability matrix, links requirements to deliverables. Reserve, provision and project management plan to mitigate risk. Reserve analysis, analytical technique to establish project reserves. Residual risk, remaining risk after implementing risk responses. Resource, team member or physical item needed for project. Resource breakdown structure, hierarchical representation of resources. Resource calendar, identifies working days and shifts of resources. Resource histogram, bar chart showing resource scheduled work over time. Resource leveling, adjusting schedule to optimize resource allocation. Resource management plan, describes how project resources are managed. Resource manager, individual with authority over project resources. Resource optimization technique, balances demand and available supply. Resource requirements, types and quantities of resources needed for activities. Resource smoothing, resource optimization technique using free and total float. Responsibility delegated assignment within project management plan. Responsibility assignment matrix, RAM. Grid showing resources assigned to work packages. Result, output from project management processes and activities. Rework, action to bring non-conforming component into compliance. Risk, uncertain event or condition with positive negative effect on objectives. Risk acceptance, acknowledging risk and not taking action. Risk appetite, degree of uncertainty willing to be accepted. Risk audit, audit to evaluate effectiveness of risk management process. Risk avoidance, eliminating threat or protecting project from impact. Risk breakdown structure, RBS, hierarchical representation of potential risks. Risk categorization, organizing risks by sources or project areas affected. Risk category, group of potential causes of risk. Risk data quality assessment, technique to evaluate usefulness of risk data. Risk enhancement, increasing probability of occurrence or impact of opportunity. Risk escalation, acknowledging risk outside of sphere of influence and shifting ownership. Risk exploiting, ensuring opportunity occurs as a risk response. Risk exposure, aggregate measure of potential impact of risks. Risk management plan, describes how risk management activities will be performed. Risk mitigation, decreasing probability of occurrence or impact of threat. Risk owner, person responsible for monitoring and implementing risk response strategy. Risk register, repository for recording risk management process outputs. Risk report, project document summarizing individual project risks and overall risk. Risk review, meeting to examine and document effectiveness of risk responses. Risk sharing, allocating ownership opportunity to third party. Risk threshold, level of risk exposure above which risks are addressed. Risk transference, shifting threat impact and ownership to third party. Role, defined function of project team member. Rolling wave. Planning, iterative planning technique for near and future term work. Root cause analysis, technique for determining underlying cause of variance, defect, or risk. Schedule, project schedule or schedule model. Schedule baseline, approved schedule version used for comparison to actual results. Schedule compression, shortening schedule duration without reducing project scope. Schedule data, information for describing and controlling schedule. Schedule forecast, estimates of project's future based on available information and scheduling. Schedule management plan, plan for developing, monitoring, and controlling the schedule. Schedule model, plan for executing project's activities including dependencies. Schedule network analysis, identifying start and finish dates for project activities. Schedule performance index, SPI. Schedule efficiency measure, earned value, planned value. Schedule variance, SV. Schedule performance measure, earned value minus planned value. Scheduling tool, tool that supports scheduling methods and formats. Scope, products, services, and results provided in a project. Scope baseline, approved version of scope statement and WBS. Scope creep, uncontrolled expansion of project scope. Scope management plan, plan for defining, developing, and controlling project scope. Secondary risk, risk that arises from implementing a risk response. Self-organizing teams, teams functioning without centralized control. Seller, provider or supplier of products, services, or results. Seller proposals, formal responses to a procurement document. Sensitivity analysis, analyzing potential impact of project uncertainties. Sequence activities, identifying relationships among project activities. Service level agreement, SLA, contract defining service level expected. Simulation, modeling uncertainties to evaluate potential impact on objectives. Source selection criteria, attributes desired by buyer for seller selection. Specification, precise statement of requirements and essential characteristics. Specification limits, limits meeting customer requirements for a product or service. Sponsor, provides resources and support accountable for project success. Sponsoring organization, provides sponsor and funding resources for project. Stakeholder, individual or group affected by project decisions or outcomes. Stakeholder analysis, gathering information on stakeholders and their interests. Stakeholder engagement assessment matrix, compares current versus desired engagement. Stakeholder engagement plan, plan to involve stakeholders in decision-making. Stakeholder register, document identifying project stakeholders. Standard, establish document as a model or example. Start date, point in time associated with activity. Start to finish, SF. Successor activity cannot finish until predecessor activity starts. Start to start, SS. Successor activity can't start until predecessor has started. SOW, narrative description of products, services, or results. Statistical sampling, choosing part of a population for inspection. Successor activity, activity that comes after another in a schedule. Summary activity, group of related schedule activities displayed as a single activity. SWOT analysis, analysis of strengths, weaknesses, opportunities, and threats. Tacit knowledge, personal knowledge that is difficult to articulate and share. Tailoring, determining the appropriate combination of processes and tools for a project. Team charter, document recording team values, agreements, guidelines, and expectations. Team management plan, describes when, how, and duration team members will be acquired. Technique, defines systematic procedure to produce a product or result or deliver a service. Templates, partially complete documents that provide structure for presenting information. Test and evaluation documents, used to determine if product meets quality objectives. Threat, risk that would have a negative effect on project objectives. 3-point estimating, estimating using optimistic, pessimistic, and most likely estimates. Threshold, predetermined value of a measurable variable that requires action if reached. T&M, hybrid contract containing aspects of both cost reimbursable and fixed price contracts. TCPI, measure of cost performance required to meet a specified goal. Tolerance, quantified description of acceptable variation for a quality requirement. Tool, something tangible used in performing an activity to produce a product or result. Tornado diagram, used in sensitivity analysis to compare relative importance of variables. Total float, time an activity can be delayed without delaying finish date, or violating a constraint. Trend analysis, uses mathematical models to forecast future based on historical results. Trigger condition, event or situation that indicates risk is about to occur. Unanimity, agreement by everyone in the group on a single course of action. Update, modification to any deliverable, project plan component, or project document. Validate scope, formalizing acceptance of completed project deliverables. Validation, assurance that a deliverable meets the needs of the customer and stakeholders. Variance, quantifiable deviation from a known baseline or expected value. Variance analysis, determining cause and degree of difference between baseline and actuals. VAC, projection of budget deficit or surplus. Variation, actual condition that is different from expected condition in the baseline plan. Verification, evaluation of whether product complies with requirement or imposed condition. Verified deliverables, project deliverables confirmed correctness through quality control. Virtual teams, team who fulfill their roles with little or no time spent meeting face-to-face. Voice of the customer, used to provide deliverables that reflect customer feedback. WBS dictionary, document providing detailed information about each WBS component. What-if scenario analysis, evaluating scenarios to predict their effect on project objectives. Work breakdown structure, WBS, hierarchical decomposition of total scope of work. Work package, the lowest level of a work breakdown structure, WBS. Work performance data, raw observations and measurements during project work. Work performance information, analyzed work performance data. Work performance reports, documented representations of work performance information.